It's time for us to tell our kids our stories and create some children's literature. Welcome to step 5 of gathering your stories to create children's literature here with Tell the Kids. Now, so far what we have, let's review. You have your introductory chapter and you have your first chapter and your last chapter that tell us which time of your life you're going to use, which piece of pie you're going to give the children at this point. So you have the beginning piece and you also know where it's going to end. Say I started in the first grade here, I'm ending my book, this storyline at when I ended up in the 5th grade. Or maybe I was my earliest memories until I started school. Or maybe it's when I started high school to the time I got married. Whatever it is that you have chosen, that's part of what you've already accomplished. You also have 2 or 3 extra stories sprinkled in. Maybe you even have 5 or 6 at this point, and we're going to continue this week to write 2 or 3 short narratives. They're going to go like pecan pieces on the top of your pecan pie to help us begin to get to the nearing the end of your story here. But as we write this week, I want us to make sure that we have an understanding of the value of writing the historical context. Because the historical context can be written into the story. And there's also going to be another way I'm going to tell you about that I'm really excited about. But as you're writing, don't forget the daily things, the daily historical things that we've forgotten about, the daily conveniences that we didn't have. I remember it astounds my kids and my grandkids when I tell them that we didn't have microwaves until I was about 10. They can't believe that. And what it was like to get lost when there were no cell phones. Things like that are daily conveniences that we didn't have or you didn't have back in the day. Other changes would be societal changes. What does society expect of a 7th grader now versus what it was then? So being able to understand that when I'm writing from my perspective, from my past, that I can also say, well, and you wouldn't have to, of course, refer back to it like that, but understanding that as you're weaving your story, to put these things in, along with economic changes that may have happened, the traditions that were remembered when I was a child or when I was a teenager that maybe we have forgotten now, along with, there's something really cool to think about, is what did I consider old-fashioned back in that time? Back when I was a kid, what did I think was old-fashioned? Also, what was the new fashion? What were the things I was hoping to get to wear, the things that I was hoping to get to do, because it was a new thing. So during that time period, this is all a part of the historic value of what I'm writing, is the things that my normal life was when I was a 1st grader or a 7th grader or when I first got married that have obviously changed now. So it's important to make sure that we are writing, understanding we're not just writing our stories, we're writing a historical piece that we can help our kids see the historic events in my life that have happened. And even if there's some major historic event that happened that you remember, put that into your story. If you remember the day that Kennedy got shot, or you remember when the Challenger blew up, whatever that is, go ahead and make sure and put that in there. Now, another thing that's really great about Tell the Kids is that I want to encourage you that if there are pieces of historical information that just don't match in your story at all, but it happened during this time period, I want you to begin to think about writing a chapter at the very, very end that will be a Tell the Kids page that will tell the kids that the reason I was so scared when I got lost was because we didn't have cell phones. You wouldn't put the thing in cell phones in the story, but you might go ahead and put it at the very end in the Tell the Kids piece, or tell the kids that it was during this time that there was a lot of civil unrest because of the movement for freedom for all peoples in every single way. And so being able to write that in as a Tell the Kids piece. And so at the very end of the book, I want you to, not only this week, work on a couple of more stories to sprinkle on the top, but start thinking about the historic piece that you might not be able to weave into your story because it just doesn't fit. But go ahead and add that at the very end. And I want you to title that back page, Tell the Kids, and tell the kids this, about this time period that I was living and the things that were happening. Oscar Wilde once said, anyone can make history, only a great man can write it. So we are becoming the great men and women of today because we're writing our stories. we're telling the historical context, and we're getting a hook from generation to generation so that we can share our hearts with the kids that we love and we know. So this week, go ahead and continue to write the stories that you guys have begun to write that are the sprinkles, but also begin to think about the historical context and maybe do the Tell the Kids page and start thinking about doing that too. Now, another thing I want to tell you is that there's not ever really a place that you're going to feel like, oh, my work is finished here, because there's always going to be more memories that pop up. But as Frank Herbert said, there's no real ending. It's just the place where you stop the story. So whenever we do this, whenever you're writing and you're like, I just don't even know how to end this. I don't know how to stop writing because now that I've started, I don't know how to get it finished. That's why we wrote our last chapter first. So you can go ahead and say, you know what? This is good. This is very, very good. So continue writing this week, and don't forget to make sure that all of your documents are saved in a safe place. And we will see you again later.